Once upon a time, there was a great king who ruled a city and was known for his generosity and commitment to charity. His acts of kindness and donations were never ending, and no one left his court empty-handed. One day, a wandering monk came to the king and said, "Your Majesty, I've heard that you are a very charitable king. Is it true that you can give me whatever I ask for?" The king replied, "Please, tell me what you need." The monk said, "You must either give me your kingdom for 12 years or give up your commitment to righteousness." At first, the king was troubled by this request, but after thinking it over, he said, "I have no use for my kingdom. I give it all to you. Take care of it." Saying this, the king left everything behind and set off alone. As he traveled, he came upon a beautiful garden with a well and a water fountain. He decided to rest there and noticed a beautifully saddled horse nearby, upon which a lovely woman was sitting and crying. The king felt pity for her and asked, "Why are you crying?" The woman replied, "Your Majesty, I am a princess. Enemies have killed my father and brothers. I managed to escape, and now you are my only hope for refuge. Please protect me." The king said, "All right, get on the horse and come with me." The princess replied, No, Your Majesty. It wouldn't be right for me to ride the horse while you walk." So the king mounted the horse, and they rode together to the king's city. Once they arrived, the princess said, "You should find a nice house to rent, and I will wait here." The king replied, "But I have no money. How can I afford a house?" The princess said, "If you need money, take some from me." She handed him 10 gold coins. The king rented a house and took the princess with him. He left her there and went out to get food for both of them. After the meal, the princess prepared food and told the king, "You should eat first." The king insisted, "You should eat too." But she said, "No, please eat first, and then I will eat." The king ate, and later she did as well. The next day, the princess said, "You work so hard. Why don't you hire a servant?" The king replied, "But I have no money." She said, "Don't worry. If you need anything, just ask me." So the king hired a servant. After a few days, the princess suggested, "You should occasionally visit the king's court to listen to what's happening." The king started going to court every day. The other king assumed the king was a relative of one of his ministers and didn't question him. Days went by, and one day, the king and his ministers discussed the new king, who seemed to have no connections. Curious, they wanted to learn more about him. The next day, the king asked for an introduction, and he shared his story. The other king welcomed him warmly because of his righteous nature, and even placed his crown on the newcomer's head, declaring him a friend. The next day, the newcomer invited the king and all the ministers for a feast. The king was surprised and said, "Are you sure you can host a feast for the entire city?" The king replied, "Yes, I can." That evening, the king sent a guard to check on preparations for the feast. The guard found nothing and reported back, "There's nothing prepared." The king suspected that the newcomer had been drinking and said, "He must be delusional." Meanwhile, the newcomer was worried, thinking he had embarrassed himself. He told the princess, "You've put me in a difficult situation." She reassured him, "Don't worry. If you are anxious, go to the garden where I was brought." When the king went to the garden, he found that divine beings were preparing everything with great splendor. He was amazed. The next morning, the newcomer hosted a grand feast for the entire city. Everyone was astonished by the display and praised the king. After the meal, the divine beings disappeared. The princess then asked the king, "How long did you give that monk your kingdom?" "Look at the paper." The king checked and saw that the time was up. The princess said, "Now you can return to your kingdom and take back your rule." The king replied, "I cannot leave you behind." She said, "What do you think I am? I am not your wife. I am your righteousness. I stayed with you as your Dharma and did not let you suffer. Now, you must follow your heart. True success and happiness in life come from being committed to righteousness. A person who adheres to Dharma, regardless of their circumstances, cannot be defeated. Following Dharma not only brings material success, but also deep understanding and truth in life. Without Dharma, life is incomplete and chaotic. But with Dharma, one can overcome any challenge. Friends, if you learned something from this video, do let us know in the comments. And for more such videos, subscribe the channel. So, let's meet in the next video with another story. Until then, stay happy and keep smiling. Thank you.